Welcome to another episode of Discussions by Domain. Today we are going to do another part on this entire customer success account management journey that Domain's been on, and we want to get this out to our audience because we believe that this is a very important part of growing your business, growing your relationships with your clients. So in this part, Mr. Kevin Vitale to my right here, is going to talk about how to grow relationships and the best practices through this customer account management position. I think it's very important. I think it's the piece of the role that is kind of left off to the side. It's the nice to have. If you can get to this, let's get to it. And I think businesses are looking at this the wrong way. And Kevin's going to share his thoughts. So he's going to start with the top of it, where he's going to explain the position, why are we doing this, and whatnot. Right. Then we're going to get into the meat of it, of like best practices.
Yeah. So thanks for having me again. Obviously something I'm really passionate about. I've spent a lot of time on this. Basically, as an account manager or customer success, whatever you want to call it, you're in a extremely important position to kind of grow that relationship, and that is really everything when you're thinking in terms of a service provider. That's everything that's built in your organization is in that relationship, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very important role, but basically, when people think about growing the relationship, it's always maybe giving them things they don't need is how you kind of incorporate it, because that's how you're going to make more money. That's exactly what not to do.
Correct.
You want to know what their business goals are, and you want to give them what you know they need because you were listening throughout that process. So listening is super, super important. Also, it's important to understand from a high, level business concept, just it's much easier to keep a client that you have rather than going to get a new one, because with a new one, you're talking about offboarding a current one if you lose them, and you're talking about onboarding a new one. So those are resources, just from a high level business. So it's cost effective to keep the clients you have. That's why it's so important.
100%. And I think you talked about something very important here, which is the model of listening to the customer, understanding their needs as the relationship changes. The relationship with your company is also going to change.
Absolutely.
And I think when you look at the software as a service business model and SaaS and why they're calling it customer success, and even in other service related industries, everybody's changing to this monthly recurring revenue model. Some contracts are month to month, some are 12 months, some are longer than that. But what we're seeing is contract length go down. And I think when we hear of customer success, how do they get the most out of your product to keep them and engage them as a client,
100%.
Just like you mentioned, so you don't lose them? Because it's easier to keep them than it is to lose them.
It's so simple. There's just way too much competition in any industry you're in to not care. Like, it's that simple. It really is. So it will always be too. No
and I don't think that's going to change. I think we're going to keep seeing businesses, especially professional service firms, switch to more of an MRR model. We're seeing it a lot in the CFO space right now.
Absolutely.
All over the place. So this is something that everybody can learn from. All right, let's get into the best practices here. Tell me about clients, events, awards. Tell me how this plays into the picture.
So your job is also a very important role for you, is just to know, to project that you're listening, right? So how do you do that? I know as a goal for a lot of the businesses we in particular work with, it's being on social media. Everybody knows that you have to be there, and you're trying to grow your audience, right? So what is the best thing you could do as an account manager is to be on those platforms and be promoting the businesses that you're working with.
Yeah.
Because you know that that's one of their goals, right? So hop on there, promote them, be an ambassador.
Yeah.
That's who you are, whether it's outward, whether you're on social media promoting your clients now, or even internally to your team, you are their ambassador technically. If that's how you have to look at it. Yeah. So that's a super important thing.
And Kevin, before he came over to the sales and marketing side of the house and was in this account management role, I would get comments all the time from my clients saying, hey, who's Kevin? Where's he coming from? How is he on my stuff? Tell him thank you for leaving that comment or sharing my post. And so I can tell you from the sales side why you would want to help your account management customer success team understand who their clients are, who are the key players, because I can tell you it's made my conversations easier by the work that
100%.
he's put in to help promote these brands that we're bringing on.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Like, listen, we care. You have to care.
Yeah.
You have to care about your clients, right? They're paying you. Why would you not care how their business is doing? They grow, you grow.
Yeah.
That's a part. It's a partnership.
100%.
And I feel like a lot of companies don't look at it like that. It's like here, you're paying us, and it's a service, and it's all good and well. But realistically, if you grow, we grow. You know,
Yeah.
so why not?
And I
why
think
not
that
do
people
that?
understand that and talk about it conceptually, but they don't actually execute on it. And that's
100%.
why we're doing this.
Yeah,
All right, point number 2, know your client's goals and set up ongoing reporting. What does that mean?
Yeah, so this basically, you have to have, in order to be held accountable for anything, you have to set up some kind of reporting that tells you where you were and where you're going. Yeah. And if you don't have that, you never could be held accountable because you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it's how do you know that the service, as a client, how do you know that the services that they paid you for are getting done well? How do you know if it's moving the needle? You have to set up that reporting so that you can kind of track, you know, milestones as it goes.
Correct. And obviously that's individualized for every single business, every single engagement. But what were some of the key ones that you saw where clients really respected that you were keeping track of a certain thing and they didn't even know things were improving?
No, absolutely. So I know in a lot of cases, some clients have a tough time. When you're hiring a lot of employees, it's tough to just keep hiring, and everybody's kind of got a different setup as it's going. So what do? We set up with our network administrators, is what they're called, to have you build a checklist of what do these clients need, and make sure that checklist lines up with their expectations for these new people as time goes on. And you have to check this every single time. Another big one is a CSAT score, customer satisfaction. You need to be able to see how we're doing, right?
Yeah.
You need that feedback, because you could be doing things exactly the same for the whole course of your contract, but at the end of it, you could have pleased nobody as a company. So you have to make sure that you're keeping a close eye on that, and that's super
Yeah, and to your point about the onboarding, even offboarding of new employees or employees that are moving on, we found a lot of success in what you were talking about there. In a lot of these employers haven't even thought about what does a new employee onboarding checklist go.
Right.
And tech is such a huge part of that.
And it's
important.
It's very complex for some clients. You know,
Yeah.
that's why you have to think about these things. Even something as simple as a password lockout policy. You know, putting a policy on a computer that says if an employee's gone for 4 minutes, you can't get back into the computer. You need little things like that. You need somebody to be thinking
Exactly.
about those things.
And then on the end side, as an employee leaves or moves on to another role, it's how do you secure your organization? That's one of the biggest vulnerabilities.
100%.
And the miscommunication, when I was in the insurance space, we used to talk about this all the time. The miscommunication between IT, information technology, and HR was amazing.
Yeah.
There was this massive gap.
Yep.
Nobody from HR or leadership would tell IT that somebody left.
That's
And meanwhile, all their credentials, all this is out there. So
Yeah.
this is a very important part of customer success. Not only are you improving potentially security based on the service you're providing, but the employee experience and making yourself look good. You're more mature.
Absolutely. You have to. You have to.
All right, point number 3 here. Regularly review your account, both internally and externally. What are we talking about here?
So here basically touches on how important, and I'm really going to stress one of these elements. There's internally and externally, but externally, I kind of mentioned in the monitoring. Make sure you know what's going on with a company. Who's, did they just win an award? What are they trying to do? You want to know that kind of stuff. But internally is, I would say, a little bit more important. You want to know in your organization that you're working for what's going on when they're there, right? These people that are also working with these clients, what's going on while they're there? Because there's a lot of there's nothing more frustrating for a client, and I've gotten this complaint a lot of times, where people don't talk to each other internally. So if you're telling me one thing and you didn't talk to this guy and I got to repeat myself again, that is the most frustrating
Yeah.
thing. So you want to make sure you have internal conversations and everybody's on the same page. It just makes things a lot
Correct.
easier to kind of move the needle.
Yeah, you have this unified message, unified front coming back to the customer, whether they hear it from Kevin on the first line, the tech goes on site, engineer goes on site, whatever, they're hearing the same message once they get
Exactly.
there. And that communication has to be held separate and concise, and somebody has to lead that. And that's
Absolutely.
the account manager. That's the
100%,
customer success.
100%.
They have to make sure all the team members that are doing all different kinds of things are unified on the communication to that client.
Right, and you have to find a way to schedule how you do that, right? So
Yeah.
you have to have these monthly calls with the team that's working with them. You have to prioritize that. Just going back to, making sure you monitor reports like this, it's so important to get everybody on the same page, because trust me, if you are on different wavelengths, it becomes very noticeable very quickly, and to have to repeat yourself with a different message is an absolute disaster. So you want to make sure you don't do that.
You seem incompetent. You're like,
Exactly.
do these people
Exactly.
even talk over there?
Exactly.
What's going on over there?
It's not efficient, and that's the
Correct.
worst thing. Yeah.
All right, last point here. We have maintain a list of out-of-scope requests internally. So when we say out-of-scope, we mean the engagement we talked about, we signed up for, the things you're now asking me for are not included in that engagement.
Right.
And you're talking about tracking that internally.
100%, because you're going to know, maybe you're going to find these little holes in the agreement that maybe weren't in there, and you know that they care about. You have to, and when I say track them, I mean literally write them down somewhere,
Yeah.
save them, organize it, because when you're looking for other things that they need, you know that this list that you made has all of them. And it seems really simple, but you have to make sure you organize that, because you'll see the same issue come up 4, 5, 6 times in 1 month, and you know now that this is where we need to go next. We at least have to talk about it.
Yeah, and that provides you in that position, one, you know your client, number two, so leadership on that team is going to be all over you, because they know if I want to talk to anybody about this client, I need to talk to Kevin.
Right.
Number 2 or 3 is, if we want to grow our relationship and the scale of services with this client, and they want to be a bigger part of our organization, we need to know where these hot spots are, mainly to grow, but also you may get caught. Right? If the same issue comes up 6 times and you've never solved it or introduced a way to solve it for X amount of money to keep this going,
You're reactive.
You're
Exactly.
reactive.
And that's not, you shouldn't really get a ton of credit for just being reactive, because that's not impressive whatsoever. If you're proactive and that you know what the problems are, here's what we think would be a good way to fix it, that gets a lot more respect, and reasonably so.
correct.
You know?
Correct. And they're happy to pay you for it.
Exactly.
Because you're solving their problem.
100%.
All right, another one in the books for the customer success playbook here. This one was specifically on the best practices to grow your current relationships with your clients that you're in charge of.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Kevin,
very much.
number 2, here we
Yes,
go.
yes.